The wedding. Noon, family compound, rented canopy. 300 guests invited for free yolof and gossip. Obi arrived at 11, drunk, reeking, hands already groping. Amara ran. Past the canopy, musicians, caterers frying plantains. She ran until St. Anthony's Church appeared. Behind it, red dirt courtyard. She collapsed against stone walls. Orange and gold wrapper clung to her. White veil crumpled in her fist. Face paint mixed with tears. "Sister, why cry on your wedding day?" A beggar stood nearby. Torn brown agbada, bare feet wrapped in cloth, mud-streaked face. But his eyes, sharp, kind, didn't match the rags. "This should be joy," he said softly. She laughed bitterly. "Joy? I'm sold to a drunk to pay debt. No joy here." He sat beside her, moving with odd grace. Pulled a tin cup, poured clean water, offered it. "I know what no choice means," he said. "But even prisoners choose their response. Here, clean water is first dignity." She drank, surprised the cup was spotless. The water cool. She studied him. Posture too straight. Accent shifting between village and educated. On his wrist, barely visible under mud, a faded blue thread. "Who are you?" He smiled sadly. "Someone who believes you deserve better." Then Aunt Ngozi's voice shattered everything. "Amara?" Aunt Ngozi stormed in, cousins following with phones recording. She grabbed Amara's hair, yanked her upright. Amara screamed. The beggar stood but didn't interfere. "You dare run to hide with this?" Aunt Ngozi shrieked, pointing. "You want a beggar instead of Obi? Fine." She dragged Amara through streets. People stared. Children laughed. The beggar followed, silent. At the canopy, 300 guests pressed close, 30 phones high, everyone waiting for the show. Aunt Ngozi ripped the veil, threw it in dirt. "Marry the beggar, then," she screamed. "Let him have you. Eat from dustbins together." The crowd roared. Laughter, gasps, phones capturing everything. Obi stood, swaying. "Don't want her." Spoiled, cursed. Uncle Chidi addressed the crowd. "Amara, two choices. Marry this beggar now or leave forever. Your father's land stays mine. You get nothing." The beggar stepped forward. The crowd quieted. "I will marry her," he said calmly. "If she consents freely. I offer no bride price, only my word to honor her." Silence fell hard. Aunt Ngozi laughed shrilly. Uncle smirked. Obi spat. The beggar turned to Amara, their eyes met. In his gaze, respect. Not pity, not lust. Clean, steady respect. Marry a drunk who'd beat her or a stranger who'd offered dignity. "I consent," she whispered. The crowd exploded, mock ceremony. No kola blessing, no libation, no prayer. Uncle scribbled, 0 naira bride price. Orphan marriage, guests threw sand, not rice. Someone played funeral music as a joke. The beggar took her hand, his grip warm. The blue thread on his wrist caught sunlight, flashing almost gold. They walked through jeers, past Aunt Ngozi's smile, past Obi's curses, past 300 phones uploading their shame to WhatsApp before they even left. Amara didn't look back. She held the beggar's hand and stepped into her new life, not knowing that in 7 days, every single person here would kneel. The beggar led her through darkness to the village edge. A mud hut stood near forest shadows, isolated from judgment. Inside, one kerosene lamp, swept floor. Thin mattress with white sheet. Wooden stool. Jerry can of water. Bar of soap. No cobwebs, no rats. No smell Amara noticed immediately. Beggars didn't live in clean spaces. "You're safe here," he said quietly. "I sleep outside on the veranda. You owe me nothing. Not your body, not service, not gratitude. You're my wife in name only, until you decide otherwise." She stared at him, exhausted and suspicious. "Why did you do this?" "What do you want?" He moved toward the door. "I want cruelty to lose. That's all. Sleep now," he left. She stood alone in the lamplight, clutching her mother's bangle. Then she collapsed onto the mattress and cried until no tears came. Outside, the beggar sat on the veranda, staring at the stars. He pulled out a phone, not a cheap one, but an iPhone with a cracked screen, and typed a message in English. Day 93. "I found her. The real test starts now." He deleted the message before sending. Then he wrapped the phone in cloth and hid it under the veranda boards. Day 1. Amara woke to silence. The beggar was gone. She found bread, akara, and bottled water, not well water, on the stool. A note in neat handwriting, "Eat, I'll return by evening." The handwriting was too clean, too educated. When he returned at 7, she pretended to sleep. watched through half-closed eyes as he washed at the jerry can, his hands afterward clean. Nails trimmed, skin soft, not a labourer's hands. He changed from rags into a faded but clean shirt, then back into rags before lying down outside. Day 2. She followed him. Lost him near the motor park, where buses and taxis jostled for passengers. She spotted him again near a black Mercedes. A well-dressed man handed him a brown envelope. They shook hands, not like beggar and benefactor, but like equals. The beggar glanced around, then entered a public toilet. Emerged 20 minutes later in clean Agbada. Walked 3 blocks like a businessman. Then returned to the toilet, came out in rags again. Amara ran back to the hut, heart pounding. Who was he? Day 3. Villagers found them. Children threw stones at the hut. Beggar and his whore. Amara's cousins smeared feces on the door before dawn. The beggar cleaned it without a word. His face showed nothing, but his jaw tightened. That night Amara couldn't stay silent. You're not a real beggar. He paused mid-motion, holding a cup of water. What makes you think that? Your hands, your soap, the way you stand. Who are you really? He set the cup down carefully. On day 7, you'll know everything. I promise. Can you trust me until then? I don't even know you. Then know this. He looked directly at her. I chose you. Not your uncle's land. Not your youth. I chose your dignity when you had none left. That's real. He lifted his wrist, showed her the blue thread. This is my promise. 7 days, she wanted to argue. Demand answers. But exhaustion won. She nodded once, then turned away. Day 4 morning. An elderly woman appeared at the hut, carrying palm oil and plantains. Blue head-wrapped kind eyes, she hummed an Igbo gospel song. Child, she said, sitting on the veranda without invitation. That boy has a heart cleaner than his clothes. I've watched him for 3 months. Amara blinked. 3 months? He's been here 3 months? Living like the poor to understand them. It's a test of some kind. I don't know more than that. Mama Aoife smiled gently. But I know God hides blessings in dirty packages. Wait 7 days. Everyone thinks I'm cursed. Mama Aoife touched her hand. Everyone thought Joseph was cursed too. Then he fed Egypt. Patience NWAM. She left the food and walked away, still humming. Amara felt hope flicker. Small, fragile, but real. The attacks escalated. Aunt Ngozi posted on the village WhatsApp group, Amara pregnant with beggar twins. Eating from garbage. This is what pride brings. The message spread to 12 other groups within an hour. Uncle Chidi added his voice. My niece disgraced our family name. No one should help her. She made her choice. Church women whispered during Sunday service, pointing when Amara entered late. The priest said nothing. Obi's family demanded a public apology. She owes our son compensation for emotional damages. Children created a rhyme, chanting it whenever Amara appeared. Amara, the beggar's wife, married to a man with no life. One woman spat at her feet in the market. Another, accidentally, knocked her basket of tomatoes into mud. Day 4 evening. Amara sat on the hut floor, shaking. I can't do this anymore. I should leave, go to Lagos alone, start over. The beggar knelt beside her. First time he'd touched her beyond handshakes. His hands on her shoulders, firm but gentle. 4 more days, he said quietly. I know it hurts, but 4 more days and everyone who laughed will kneel, not to me, to the truth. Can you hold on? She looked at his eyes, saw absolute certainty, not arrogance, not false hope. Certainty. 4 days, she whispered. She stopped waiting for rescue. Started building. Day 5. She planted a small vegetable garden outside the hut, tomatoes, pepper, okra. The beggar watched, visibly impressed. She repaired the roof thatch, climbing despite her fear of heights. Accepted a neighbor's offer to tutor their children in mathematics for 500 naira per week. Each morning she prayed. Not loudly, not performatively. Just quiet Igbo prayers at dawn, kneeling on the mat, hands folded around her mother's bangle. The beggar never interrupted. Just watched from the veranda, with something like reverence in his eyes. Day 5 evening, she attempted to cook akara, burned half the batch. The beggar tried one, made a face, and they both laughed. First, real laughter in the hut. The sound felt strange, fragile. Good. That night, She tied a blue cloth around her waist without thinking. Realized later it matched his thread. Neither mentioned it. Something was shifting. She still didn't trust him fully. Still didn't understand. But she felt less alone. Day 5, late afternoon, screaming from Mama Ife's compound. Amara and the beggar ran. Found Mama Ife cradling her grandson, 4 years old, convulsing, skin burning. Malaria, severe. Clinic won't treat without 45,000 naira up front, Mama Ife sobbed. I have nothing. I sold my wrapper already. He's dying. Amara didn't hesitate. She ran to the hut, dug her tin from under the mat. 68,000 naira. Everything she had. Every dream she'd saved for. She pressed it into Mama Ife's hands. Go. Now. The beggar stared at her. Amara, that's all you have in the world. What good is money if children die? She looked at him fiercely. Let's go. They rushed the child to the clinic. Doctors stabilized him. IV drip. Medication. Amara paid 50,000 naira, kept 18,000 for food. Outside, under fluorescent lights, the beggar stood silent. Then his shoulders shook. He was crying. You just gave everything, he whispered. For a child not even yours. Mama Ife was kind when no one else was. Amara's voice was steady. This is what the bangle means. Onye wetara oji. Wetara ndu. Who brings cola brings life. He took her hand. First real affection, his grip warm, trembling. You are the richest person I have ever met. For a moment, under harsh clinic lights, something passed between them. Not romance, something deeper. Recognition. That night Amara pretended to sleep. Heard the beggar speaking Igbo on a phone. Papa, it's time. Day 7 is Saturday. Yes, she's extraordinary. I was arrogant and empty. She is humble and full. Bring everything. The village needs to see. He hung up, noticed her watching. Their eyes met, he smiled sadly. Pack a small bag, he said. Tomorrow morning we leave for Lagos. We return Saturday. Her heart stopped. Lagos? Why? To prepare for day 7. And because... He hesitated. I need to show you who I really am before everyone else knows. 11 p.m. A black SUV pulled silently to the hut. Tinted windows, no headlights. The beggar emerged from shadow, still in rags, and opened the passenger door. A driver stepped out, young man in pressed shirt and slacks. He bowed slightly to the beggar, not mockingly, respectfully. Amara froze. Kalu, what is this? The name startled her. She'd never asked his name. He'd never offered. But now it felt right. Trust me one more night, he said, voice shifting. No longer village rough, but smooth, educated. Then everything becomes clear. Only Mama Ife watched from her window, smiling knowingly. The 4-hour drive to Lagos passed in silence. Amara slept against Kalu's shoulder, too exhausted for fear. He stayed awake, watching her face in passing headlights, memorizing the way her breath moved. Dawn broke over Lagos. Skyscrapers, traffic, chaos and wealth colliding on every street. The SUV entered Ikoyi, luxury neighborhood where governors and oil barons lived, gate with armed security, long driveway lined with palm trees. Then the mansion appeared. 3 stories, white marble pillars, fountain in the courtyard, pool gleaming in early sun. 3 cars parked in the driveway, Range Rover, Mercedes G-Wagon, Lexus. Amara's door opened. She didn't move. Kalu. Her voice broke. Whose house is this? Mine, he said quietly. Well, my father's, but soon mine. Come inside. She stepped out like walking through dream or nightmare. House staff in uniform lined the entrance. They bowed to Kalu. Welcome home, sir. Inside, marble floors, chandeliers, art on walls, curved staircase. Everything gleamed. Amara backed toward the door. You lied to me. 6 days of lies. I didn't. Don't. She was shaking, furious, terrified. You pretended to be nothing while I gave everything. That's exactly why I didn't tell you. His voice rose, desperate. If I'd revealed myself that first night, you would have been grateful, subservient. I needed to see who you really were. Not rescued orphan, not grateful girl. You. You had no right. I had every right. He pulled off the torn agbada, underneath clean traditional attire, perfectly tailored. My name is Kalunde Okafor. My father is Chief Okafor, owner of Okafor Luxury Transports, 16 trucks, exports across West Africa, 4 branches, Lagos, Port Harcourt, Abuja, Accra. We're worth 780 million naira. He held up his wrist. The blue thread, she could see now it was woven with gold strands. This is my company founder's symbol. I've worn it every day for 100 days. You never once asked what it meant. Amara's legs gave out. She sat hard on the marble floor. Kalu sat across from her, not touching, giving her space to breathe. 6 months ago, I was a spoiled idiot, he began. Crashed my father's Range Rover while drunk. Disrespected our drivers, men who worked 16-hour shifts so I could party in clubs. Wasted 2 million naira in 3 months on nothing. My father said, "You will live as the poor live for 100 days, or I disown you and give the company to charity. Learn what suffering means, or lose everything." Amara stared at the floor. Said nothing. "I've been in that village for 93 days, Kalu continued, living in that hut, eating scraps, being ignored, mocked, invisible, learning. When I met you behind the church, when your aunt forced that marriage, I had 7 days left. I could have refused, could have revealed myself and rescued you heroically to look good. Then why didn't you?" Her voice was cold. "Because you weren't asking to be saved." He leaned forward. "You were looking for a way to save yourself, and I—" He paused, swallowing hard. "I saw something in you I'd never seen in anyone. Dignity without status, kindness without reward, strength without violence. So I was your test." She looked up, eyes blazing. "Your character study?" "No." He met her gaze. "The test was to live as a beggar for 100 days. That was set before I met you. But you became something else. You became the reason I wanted to pass." She laughed bitterly. "Poetic." "2 nights ago," he said softly, "I watched through the clinic window while you gave your last 50,000 naira to save Mama Eve's grandson. My father's accountant photographed the receipt. You didn't know anyone was watching. You did it because that's who you are." He pulled a photo from his pocket. Amara at the clinic counter, handing cash to the nurse, face resolved and peaceful. "This is the woman I want beside me," Kalu said, voice cracking. "Not because you need me, but because you make me better. You've taught me more about wealth in 6 days than my father taught in 28 years. Real wealth is this," he gestured at the photo, "giving when you have nothing left." Silence stretched. "What happens tomorrow?" Amara asked finally. "Day 7? "Tomorrow my 100 days end. My father arrives with lawyers and witnesses. Your uncle called an emergency village meeting to humiliate you publicly. He doesn't know we left. We're going back, in a private jet, landing in that village square at 10 a.m. And we're going to show them that the worthless orphan and the filthy beggar are worth more than all of them combined. And if I say no?" She stood slowly. "If I walk away right now?" Kalu opened his wallet, pulled out cash, 500,000 naira in fresh bills, placed it on the floor between them. "Then this is yours anyway, for your nursing school. You owe me nothing. The marriage certificate is legal but unconsummated. Annulment is simple. You're free." I forced nothing. She stared at the money, at him, at the mansion around them. "I married you when everyone was laughing," she said slowly. "When you had torn rags and muddy feet, I didn't marry your money." She picked up the cash. His face fell. Then she handed it back. "So if we're doing this, if we're going back to face them, I'm not going as your rescued orphan. I'm going as your equal. Understood?" His eyes widened. "Understood, my equal, my queen." For the first time, he smiled without sadness. She almost smiled back. While Amara discovered the truth in Lagos, her uncle discovered his doom in the village. Day 6, 9 a.m. Chief Emeka appeared at Uncle Chidi's gate with police. The debt deadline had arrived. Uncle Chidi had nothing. Not 850,000 naira, not even 100,000. The motorcycle taxi business was ash. "Your house then," Chief Emeka said coldly. "Collateral collection begins today." Uncle Chidi fell to his knees. Please, one more week. Amara married a beggar and ran away. Chief Emeka gestured to his men. You have no leverage left, but Aunt Ngozi, desperate and vicious, had a plan. By noon, she'd posted on every village WhatsApp group. Emergency meeting Saturday, 10 a.m. Amara must answer for crimes against family honor. All invited, she printed a poster-sized expense list. 1.4 million naira supposedly owed by Amara. Fabricated line items. 350,000 naira school fees. Amara never attended. 600,000 naira food. 450,000 naira shelter. Obi's family joined the campaign. His father posted, "That girl owes my son compensation." He paid emotional damages. We demand justice. By evening, the entire village buzzed with gossip. Some people felt uncomfortable. The cruelty seemed excessive. But no one spoke up. Silence was safer. 300 people confirmed attendance for Saturday's trial. Lagos, the mansion. Kalu's father arrived at sunset. Chief Okafor, 62 years old, traditional coral beads around his neck, white agbada embroidered with gold, walking staff of authority. His face was weathered but kind, intelligent eyes that missed nothing. He entered the living room where Amara sat, still wearing her village clothes, still overwhelmed. Chief Okafor stopped, studied her. Then he bowed his head slightly, a gesture of respect between equals, not elder to youth. "My son has chosen well," he said simply. Amara stood, unsure whether to bow back. "Sir, you saved a child with your last money." He smiled gently. "That tells me everything I need to know. Welcome to our family, daughter." Tears pricked her eyes. No one had called her daughter in 3 years. The lawyer arrived next. Barrister Okonkwo, mid-40s, sharp suit, briefcase full of documents. He spread them across the dining table. "Mrs. Okafor," he began, and Amara startled at the name. "Here's what we've prepared. Your father's original will, never probated. Bank records showing 2.3 million naira, stolen by your uncle. Your marriage certificate, legally registered in Lagos High Court. And witness affidavits from 4 neighbors, including Mrs. Eve Okoli, detailing 3 years of abuse and fraud." He looked up. "Tomorrow we don't just defend you. We dismantle their lies completely. Are you ready for that?" Amara's voice was steady. "I've been ready since the day they tried to break me." Chief Okafor nodded approvingly. That evening a stylist arrived. Professional hair braiding with gold thread. Elegant blue lace wrapper with gold embroidery, matching Kalu's ceremonial agbada. Makeup subtle but flawless. Gold bracelets. And on top of them all, her mother's silver bangle. She looked in the mirror and barely recognized herself. Not because she looked wealthy, because she looked free. Kalu appeared in the doorway, breath catching. "You look like someone who's done being silent," she finished. They sat on the balcony overlooking Lagos lights, city stretching forever, alive and indifferent. "Tomorrow changes everything," Kalu said quietly. "Are you ready?" She gripped her mother's bangle. "I've been ready since the day they tried to break me. Let's go show them what unbreakable looks like." Below them, a helicopter waited on the estate's private pad. Fueled. Ready. 7 days. From beggar to billionaire's wife. From nothing to everything. But Amara knew the truth now. She'd always been everything. The village just refused to see it. Tomorrow they would see. They would all see. Saturday, day 7, 9:45 a.m. The village square had transformed into a courtroom. Wooden benches arranged in rows. Uncle Chidi sat at a front table like a judge, Aunt Ngozi beside him fanning herself despite the harmattan breeze. Behind them, a poster board displaying Amara's fabricated debt, 1.4 million naira in bold red marker. 400 people had come, more than the wedding. Everyone wanted to witness the orphan's final humiliation. Obi and his family occupied the front row. 2 wives, 6 children, parents, all dressed in expensive lace like they were attending a coronation. Obi himself wore dark sunglasses, though the sun was barely up, hiding his hangover. Churchwomen clustered together, whispering. Market vendors took breaks to watch. Children climbed trees for better views. At least 50 phones were already recording, streaming live to Facebook and Instagram. Mama Ife sat in the back row alone, quiet smile on her lips. She wore her best wrapper, the one she'd been saving. She knew what was coming. 9:55 a.m., Uncle Chidi stood commanding silence. "We gather as witnesses," he announced, voice carrying across the square. "My niece Amara has disgraced our family, married a beggar, abandoned her responsibilities. This board shows what she owes. 1.4 million naira for 3 years of care. If she doesn't appear in 5 minutes, I will seize any property she claims and distribute it as I see fit. Does anyone object?" Silence. A few people shifted uncomfortably but said nothing. Aunt Ngozi stood, playing her part. She probably ran to Lagos to beg on streets. Good riddance. We should never have taken her in. Some people are cursed from birth. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the crowd. The church bell tower chimed. 10 o'clock a.m. Uncle Chidi smiled. "Time is up. Let the record show." Then they heard it, a sound like God tearing the sky open. Everyone looked up. A helicopter, sleek white corporate, descended toward the village square. Rotor-wash sent dust exploding outward. Women grabbed their head wraps. Men shielded their faces. Children screamed with excitement and terror. The helicopter touched down 50 feet from the benches. Engine still running, blade still spinning, the door opened. First Kalu, no longer a beggar. Royal blue agbada with gold embroidery that caught sunlight like flame. Red traditional cap, coral beads around his neck, symbol of high rank. Polished leather shoes. Face clean, beard trimmed, posture commanding. Second, Amara. Matching blue lace wrapper, gold head tie folded into perfect jewel, face radiant. Gold bracelets on both wrists. And on top, her mother's silver bangle, impossible to miss. She moved like she'd been wearing gold her entire life. Third, Chief Okafor. White agbada, staff of authority, coral beads triple-stranded. He walked with the slow confidence of a man who'd built empires. Fourth, Barrister Okonkwo. Black suit, briefcase, expression carved from stone. Behind them, 2 security men, one carrying a professional video camera. The crowd went silent. Not quiet, silent. 400 people holding their breath. Uncle Chidi's mouth opened. No sound came out. Aunt Ngozi's fan clattered to the ground. Obi pulled off his sunglasses, squinting. "Is that the beggar?" Someone in the crowd whispered, "That's Okafor Transports. I've seen their trucks." Another voice, "The blue and gold logo, that's them." Kalu walked forward, boots crunching in red dirt. He stopped 10 feet from Uncle Chidi's table. When he spoke, his voice was calm, amplified by a portable speaker the security guard held. "Good morning, my people. I am Kalunde Okafor, son of Chief Okafor. 7 days ago, you witnessed my marriage to Amara. You laughed, you recorded, you threw sand. Today I return with my wife, not for revenge but to correct lies with truth." Uncle Chidi found his voice. "This is a trick. Some costume. Guards, remove them." Chief Okafor raised his staff once. The square went silent again. "I am Chief Okafor, businessman and Igbo titled elder. My son came to this village 100 days ago for a humility trial. He lived as a beggar to learn what suffering means. On day 93, he chose to marry this young woman." He gestured to Amara. "Not because she was beautiful, not because she had wealth, but because when she had nothing, she gave everything. That is the woman standing before you." Amara stepped forward, standing beside Kalu. The two of them together, blue and gold. Perfectly matched, looked like royalty, and the crowd knew it. Barrister Okonkwo stepped forward, set his briefcase on Uncle Chidi's table, and opened it with a sharp click. "My name is Barrister Okonkwo, representing Mrs. Amara Okafor. Yes, Okafor, legally married, registered in Lagos High Court on March 17th. Now let's address these accusations." He pulled out the first document, held it high. Document 1, Mr. Chidi, you claimed your brother's land transferred to you upon his death. This is the original last will and testament, signed by 4 witnesses and notarized in 2021. It states clearly, all assets to my daughter Amara upon turning 18, with her uncle as trustee, not owner. You committed fraud by claiming ownership. Uncle Chidi's face drained of color. I didn't. Barrister Okonkwo pulled the second document. Document 2, bank statements from your late brother's account. Balance at time of death, 2,318,000 naira. Over 3 years, you withdrew everything. Here are the ATM records. Your PIN, your thumbprint. You stole from an orphaned child. Gasps erupted. Aunt Ngozi started crying. high-pitched and desperate. Third document, document 3. School records from community secondary school. Your expense list claims 350,000 naira in school fees. He tapped the poster board. These records show Amara dropped out of JSS 3 because you refused to pay. You fabricated an entire expense. She owes you nothing. The crowd erupted. People shouting, arguing, phones held higher to capture every second. Chief Okafor spoke again. And somehow his voice cut through the chaos. Here is what will happen. Mr. Chidi, you will return the farm title to Amara within 7 days, or face criminal prosecution for fraud and theft. You will repay 500,000 naira in restitution from the assets you still control. You will sign a public apology letter to be read in church next Sunday. And you will never contact my daughter-in-law again unless she chooses otherwise. Daughter-in-law. The word hung in the air like a blessing. Uncle Chidi stood, shaking. This is all lies. She's still nothing. Amara's voice cut him off, clear, strong, unwavering. Uncle, I am done being nothing. The crowd quieted instantly. I am Amara Okafor. I have a voice now, and I forgive you. Not because you deserve it, but because I refuse to carry your cruelty anymore. But forgiveness does not mean I forget, and it certainly doesn't mean I'll let you hurt anyone else. For a moment no one moved. Then applause started. 1 person, then 5, then 50. Within seconds half the crowd was clapping, not politely but fiercely, triumphantly. Aunt Ngozi lurched forward, desperation twisting her face. She pushed through the crowd toward Amara. Amara, my dear child, she sobbed, voice dripping fake sweetness. We always loved you like our own daughter. This is all a misunderstanding. Please tell them. Amara removed her mother's silver bangle slowly, held it up so everyone could see. This bangle was my mother's, she said, voice carrying. You told me it was worthless aluminum. 2 years ago, you tried to sell it at the market for 500 naira. I bought it back with money from washing clothes. She pulled a certificate from her wrapper. Last week, a jeweler in Lagos appraised it. 180,000 naira. Pure silver. 1940s Igbo craftsmanship, family heirloom. She let that sink in. Then continued. You couldn't even recognize value when you held it in your hands. That's your problem, Auntie. You see wealth, but you don't see worth. Amara walked through the crowd. They parted like water. She reached Mama Ifa in the back row and placed the bangle in the old woman's weathered hands. Mama Ifa, this is for your grandson's school fees. You saw my worth when I was nothing. That's real wealth. The crowd erupted again, clapping, crying, shouting. Aunt Ngozi collapsed onto a bench, sobbing into her hands. Obi stood, drunk despite the hour, furious and humiliated. I'll sue, he shouted. I was promised a wife. So my family paid. Chief Okafor's voice dropped to ice. You paid 0 bride price. Registry book shows that. And you are 38 years old trying to marry a 19-year-old child. One more word, and I will personally report you to the gender-based violence unit in Enugu. Sit. Down. Obi sat immediately. His wives looked away, embarrassed. His parents stared at the ground. A police car rolled into the square. 2 officers, called ahead by the lawyer, they approached Uncle Chidi. Mr. Chidi, we have questions about financial fraud and theft from a minor. You'll need to come to the station. Uncle tried to run. Security men blocked him. Aunt Ngozi grabbed the officer's arm. Please, we have children. We'll pay everything back. Chief Okafor's voice was firm but not cruel. Your children are innocent. They will not suffer. But your husband must face consequences. That's justice. Uncle Chidi was escorted to the police car. No handcuffs yet, just escorted. The crowd parted, and several people spat on the ground as he passed, traditional sign of disgust. Amara watched without joy. Just closure. Tears streamed silently down her face. Kalu stood beside her, not touching, just present. When she reached for his hand, he took it. The helicopter blades started again. Chief Okafor turned to the crowd. Let this be a lesson to all. Orphans are not garbage. Widows are not worthless. The vulnerable are under God's protection. When you mock them, you mock God himself. He climbed back into the helicopter. Kalu and Amara followed. As the helicopter lifted, Amara looked down at the village. 400 faces all looking up, 7 days ago. They'd laughed at her. Now they watched her rise. The beggar was a billionaire. The orphan was a queen, and the truth had won. The helicopter landed on the Okafor estate 30 minutes later. As Amara stepped out, legs shaking from adrenaline, several women approached. House staff, faces kind. "Welcome home, madam," the head housekeeper said, bowing slightly. Home. The word felt foreign. But also possible. That afternoon, messages flooded the village WhatsApp groups. Videos from the square had already been viewed 40,000 times. Comments ranged from shock to shame to celebration. One woman who'd spat at Amara's feet posted, "I am deeply sorry. I was wrong. May God forgive me." Another, "The beggar was a king all along." What a story. But some remained bitter. Obi's father, "This is all staged propaganda." Amara turned off her phone. She didn't need their validation anymore. 2 weeks later, Amara returned to the village alone. Kalu had offered to come. She'd refused. "This is something I need to do myself." Aunt Ngozi now lived in a small rented room on the village outskirts. Uncle Chidi was still detained, awaiting trial. Her cousins had moved in with other relatives. The woman who'd once commanded a household now had 2 rooms and a kerosene stove. Amara knocked. The door opened slowly. Aunt Ngozi looked 10 years older, thin, grey streaks in her hair. Eyes hollow. She fell to her knees immediately. "Please, Amara, tell them to drop the charges. Your uncle is sick in that cell. We'll lose everything." Amara didn't help her up, just stood there looking down. "Auntie, I forgive you," she said quietly. "I release my anger toward you. I pray you find peace." Hope flared in Aunt Ngozi's eyes. "But," Amara continued, "I will not ask them to drop the charges. Uncle stole 2.3 million naira from me. He has to answer for that. Justice is not revenge. It's truth, but we're family. We were never family." Amara's voice stayed level. "Family doesn't steal. Family doesn't force marriages to pay debts. Family doesn't humiliate. So I forgive you as a fellow human being who made terrible choices. But I do not forget, and we are not family." She placed 20,000 naira on the table. "For food this month. Not because you deserve it. Because I refuse to become you." She left. Aunt Ngozi's weeping faded behind her. In the car, Amara prayed softly in Igbo, not for reconciliation, for release, for the strength to forgive without returning to abuse. Kalu waited at the village entrance, said nothing, just held her when she reached him. The village transformed faster than anyone expected. Uncle Chidi was sentenced to 18 months of community service plus 500,000 naira restitution. He couldn't afford a lawyer, pled guilty. Part of his sentence, writing a public apology letter. It was read aloud in St. Anthony's Church the following Sunday. The priest's voice echoed through the sanctuary. "I, Chidi Okonkwo, confess before God and this congregation that I stole from my orphaned niece. I forged documents. I abused my position as guardian. I failed as a man. I beg Amara's forgiveness, though I do not deserve it." Half the congregation wept. The other half sat in stunned silence. Chief Okafor donated 5 million naira to establish the Amara's Hope Scholarship Fund for orphaned girls across Enugu State. The fund provided school fees, housing stipends and mentorship. 24 girls enrolled the first year. Amara's father's 15-acre farm was legally transferred back to her name. She leased it to a cooperative. Income went to the scholarship fund. The village council passed a new resolution, signed by the chief and 12 elders. No forced marriages, no child brides, no bride price exploitation. Orphans' inheritances shall be managed by 3-person committees, not single relatives. Change was slow, but it was real. Kalu and Amara moved into a smaller house on the estate. 3 bedrooms, garden, view of the pool. Not the mansion. Amara's choice. "I don't need 20 rooms," she said. "I need a home." She enrolled at Lagos State University nursing program. Kalu paid fees, but she insisted on working. Part-time at a free clinic in Ajegunle, one of Lagos's poorest neighborhoods. "So I remember where I came from," she told him. Kalu learned to cook, poorly, burned rice twice a week. But he tried, humility becoming part of him rather than just a test. Mama Ife moved into the guest cottage. Her grandson, the one Amara had saved, was 6 now, healthy, attending private school on scholarship. He called Amara Auntie Queen. She laughed every time. They kept the village hut. Returned twice monthly to check on scholarship girls. to show them that rising didn't mean forgetting. One evening, standing in their kitchen while Kalu attempted jollof, Amara laughed at the smoke alarm. "I was a king dressed as a beggar," he said, waving a towel at the smoke. "You were a queen called an orphan. We're finally wearing the right clothes." She took the spoon from him. "No, we're finally people who don't need clothes to prove our worth." Amara stood in the mobile clinic, stethoscope around her neck, tending to a pregnant woman in a remote village 2 hours from Enugu. At 21, she was a registered nurse, graduated top 5% of her class. The mobile clinic visited 12 rural villages monthly, funded by the Okafor Foundation. She trained 15 village health workers, published a paper on maternal health in rural Nigeria, been invited to speak at a WHO conference in Geneva next month, and she was 6 months pregnant. Kalu ran Okafor Pan-African Logistics now, expanded to Ghana, Senegal, Togo. But he'd implemented profit sharing for all drivers, remembering the men he'd met during his 100 days. The blue thread never left his wrist. Uncle Chidi worked as a security guard at a small factory. Sober 18 months. He'd written a second apology letter. Amara read it. Didn't respond. Some bridges stayed burned. Aunt Ngozi had left the village. Last seen in Port Harcourt. Refused all help. Pride was her final prison. Obi, divorced by both wives now. Lived with his elderly mother, unemployed, the village joke. Obi, who rejected gold to chase brass, they said. The scholarship fund had grown. 86 girls currently enrolled. 12 graduated secondary school. 8 in university. 100% literacy rate. Sunday morning. Amara and Kalu returned to St. Anthony's Church for a dedication ceremony. New orphan care center built beside the sanctuary. She wore a simple blue wrapper. No gold, no extravagance. Just her mother's bangle and her wedding ring. They walked barefoot into the church. Kalu's choice. To remember. The same crowd that had mocked them now sang hymns. The same priest who'd stayed silent now blessed their unborn child. "This baby is born from humility and grace," he said. Hand on Amara's belly. She placed her hand over his. Smiled at Kalu. Afterward, they stood outside where it had all begun. The courtyard where she'd cried. Where a beggar had offered water. Where everything changed. "I thought I was married